What do you think about Human Events reporting that the FBI allegedly had footage of exactly what happened here, but they didn't want to release it because they didn't want to exonerate Rittenhouse? That's the allegations by Human Events.
Wow. So look, having been a guy who was a national security prosecutor, prosecuted terrorists all over the world, and worked with the FBI, I love those guys, most of them, right? What I don't like is the top, and that Russiagate, and we'll get to that as a prime example of how America's faith in our law enforcement community has been destroyed by a select few. And when you say something like that, if you told me that 7 years ago, I'd be like, you're crazy, man. If you tell me that today, I'd be like, someone needs to do that. Someone needs to look into that seriously, because if the Justice Department withheld evidence, exculpatory evidence, like we've caught them doing time and time again from Russiagate on through the Flynn case, when Flynn was exonerated, they withheld exculpatory evidence, the FBI.
Well, the Epstein case, they withheld the information for 30 plus years. The FBI was interviewing witnesses in the 90s.
That's right.
With women that came forward and said, hey, this is happening, and the FBI literally looked the other way. There was the other case of the other family-friendly show, the other person who hurt children. I forgot his name. We were just talking about that.
Prince Andrew?
There's, of course, Prince Andrew, and then there's another
Cosby.
there's another case a couple weeks ago where the FBI again ignored the victims, screwed them when they knew.
The
gymnast.
Nasser.
Yes,
gymnast.
Nasser.
Yeah.
So it's like, how many times could they do this now?
Dude.
Yeah.
I'm watching the live stream of this case, and I think anybody who's watching this is probably asking themselves over and over again, how was Gage Grosskreutz not criminally charged for at least having the gun, right? But it sounds like attempted murder, potentially. The only reason that we're not watching a trial is for attempted murder is that Kyle Rittenhouse defended himself. Gage Grosskreutz lied to the police, multiple officers, about having a gun. His concealed carry was invalid. He knew it was invalid. So he lied to the police. So here he is at a protest. He goes at a riot. He goes to multiple. He's admitted this on the stand. Multiple events, armed with a gun. He's not legally allowed to be carrying. Now, I'll stop right there and say, I believe that's a bunk claim, because the Constitution says you have right to keep and bear arms, and then trying to put this law over someone's right to keep and bear arms is BS. But for the sake of the statutory legal issue at play, here's a guy who should have been charged for bringing an illegal weapon concealed to a riot on multiple occasions, and the prosecution showed that he was chasing Kyle Rittenhouse out of view of Rittenhouse. He didn't know where Kyle was, and you can see him on camera running towards him and reaching into the small of his back and drawing the gun from his waistband. How did this guy not get charged? And now we learn the FBI had the aerial surveillance footage. So wait, you mean the FBI was surveilling the riots from with a drone, and they've not charged any of these people? What the ever-living F?
Or release the information to help this court proceeding, to help this trial go along in a more accurate, honest way. Why hasn't that been released? Our taxes were used for that money.
Yeah.
Sorry,
here's the thing, right? That case is going down in state court. The FBI is a federal law enforcement agency whose mandate is in federal court. Now, that doesn't mean that the FBI doesn't participate in crimes that are prosecuted in state court, but very, very rarely. And the way they view it is that's a separate court system. It's a Wisconsin state court system. We do not have any obligation to do anything. We have no relationship with that prosecutor to do anything. And they can hide behind that.
But why didn't they bring any charges? Is it because it's not a federal offense?
They could, but usually what would happen is the DOJ would bring charges and they would supersede any of these charges. But the problem is you have, again, a politicized law enforcement community where they're saying because of the riots and because of everything that happened here, the number one target is Kyle Rittenhouse. So we can't go ahead and supersede with a federal prosecution for another defendant or possible defendant, because they want to see how that case plays out, because they don't want to take the heat away from that.